In the aftermath of the Shibuya incident, the world of Jujutsu was changed forever. Gojo, the strongest sorcerer, is now sealed. Yuji finds his suspended death sentence back in effect, and the one tasked with executing Yuji is none other than a special grade sorcerer. Also, a clash of titans looms on the horizon. Special grade, cursed womb, death painting Choso versus Naoya, the #1 sorcerer of the Zenin clan. What's up everyone, it's Kenpachi Zo here, and today we're going to be reviewing the Yuji extermination arc. The arc begins with an introduction of Naoya Zenin. He's been recently promoted to the head of the Zenin clan, but finds out if Gojo has died or become mentally incapacitated for any reason. A written agreement concluded with Toji Fushiguro will welcome Megumi Fushiguro into the Zenin clan, whereupon he shall become the head of the Zenin clan and all assets shall pass on to him. Naoya is pissed when he finds this out and seeks out Megumi, who is looking for Yuji. Naoya is determined to kill both of them. Naoya says, Tokyo has become a realm of demons now. It doesn't matter when or how people die. I'll work it out after I kill them. After all, I am the head of the Zenin clan. The scene changes to Yuji and Choso talking about Yuji's thought. Yuji knows Sukuna is plotting something involving Megumi. He thinks he can no longer stay with anyone. He tells Choso, are you fine with it? I also killed your little brothers. Choso says, it's fine. It was a misunderstanding. It's not about forgiving or not forgiving. Brothers are just like that. Let's go. Right now, we have to take care of as many cursed spirits as possible. So they set out. The scene changes to Yuji and Choso easily killing some cursed spirits. Choso has already noticed Yuji has gotten stronger since they fought each other. He calls him a demon god. Then Naoya shows up. He says, I don't see Megumi. He tells Yuji and Choso, what are you two doing? You totally stand out. Don't you want to run? Yuji questions him, why would I run? He then informs him that his death sentence is back on since Gojo's support is gone. He tells them his business is with Megumi, so I honestly don't care if you live or die. But I can't have you scampering around, so I'll start by breaking your leg. Yuji says, what do you want with Megumi? Naoya says, I think I'll have him die, but it would help if he wrote a little something first. I heard Megumi is looking for you. Then he dashes towards Yuji, punches him while simultaneously blocking an attack from Choso. They quickly notice how fast Naoya is. Naoya says, you're tougher than I thought, but to be honest, I didn't expect much. Shall I try upping my speed? Then they all feel this eerie, strong sensation. Yuji thinks, is it Gojo? No, something creepier. Then behind them, a man shows up and says, you're not alone? Yuji asks who he is. Choso says, whoever he is, his objective seems to be. Then the man jumps on the ground and creates a huge shockwave, breaking everything around him. Choso says, so you're Yuji's executioner. Naoya puts his hands up and says, I'm on your side. You're Okotsu, right? Yuji thinks to himself, Okotsu? He's a second year Megumi mentioned. Okotsu says to Naoya, who are you? Naoya Zenin, Maki's cousin. I'm also here to kill Yuji. Don't worry, I won't interfere, but in return, as this conversation is happening, Choso whispers to Yuji, you gotta run. The blondie is a speed type, but there's a hidden trick to it. Playing chase with him could be bad, so I'll take him. Will you be alright? Choso notices that Okotsu is the same type as Gojo. If you fight him, you'll die. Naoya asks Okotsu, even if you kill Yuji, will you refrain from telling your superiors for a while? He's bait for someone I want to meet. Okotsu agrees and says, I'll leave the other to you. Then the battles start. Naoya kicks Choso in the chest and Okotsu dashes towards Yuji. Yuji sprints off and quickly realizes how fast Okotsu is. Choso tries to hit Naoya with his blood manipulation attack, but Naoya saw his curse technique earlier. He says, Piercing blood is not that frightening, and in order to use piercing blood, you need convergence, which requires charging up. I don't need to say the rest for you to understand. This is checkmate. You will die now. The battle switches to Yuji versus Okotsu. Yuji sprints towards a car laying on its side, jumps over it. As he does that, Yuta quickly dashes around it. Anticipating Yuji's movements, Yuta slashes upward with his sword, but Yuji quickly grabs the door and jumps back over and punches the car into Okotsu. I thought this was really impressive for Yuji to do. I think he's showing his battle IQ. Using this small opening, Yuji darts away, but Okotsu sends the car flying at Yuji. He says, "Surprise? I don't look like the power type. I'm actually on the weak side." Yuji says to himself, despite not having much power, he has an immense amount of cursed energy. Yuji says, "So you're the exact opposite of me." Okotsu says, "You notice, huh? I've got more cursed energy than Gojo, but Gojo has the 6 eyes. So the energy that's lost when he activates a cursed technique is close to 0, and I can run out of cursed energy. But now I'm done talking." And he dashes towards Yuji, and it looks like he almost slices his head. Yuji says, "Seriously?" Yuji is overwhelmed by Okotsu's speed. Yuji remembers a conversation with Todo. Todo says, "The flow of energy for an elite sorcerer is difficult to read, but for different reasons than you. An elite fighter has greater accuracy in controlling cursed energy, making it difficult to predict an attack until the moment is executed." Yuji thinks to himself, the problem isn't about reading his moves. His every attack can be decisive, and he can restrict all damage to a minimum. Okotsu continues to slash at Yuji. Yuji is actually doing an okay job dodging these attacks, barely, but he's doing it. He thinks to himself, first, I need to do something about that katana. Yuji runs towards this four-wheeler, jumps through the window, and grabs a dagger that's laying on the seat. Yuta, already in front of Yuji, goes to slash him. Yuji uses the dagger to block the attack. Yuji goes to cut Okotsu. He tells himself, don't be scared to close in. Imbue the knife with cursed energy. As he goes to attack Okotsu again, Okotsu blocks Yuji's dagger with his katana and tells him, "You're too focused on my katana," and he kicks him in the stomach. As he does that, he slices Yuji's dagger and cuts the entire front of Yuji's body. Thinking quick on his feet, as Okotsu's dagger is pointed towards the ground, Yuji stomps on it, breaking it in half. Okotsu is impressed by this and says, well, of course, he's Gojo's pupil. This was never going to be easy. Yuji thinks to himself, my wound is deep, but my guts are still intact, and now we're both unarmed. And he goes to punch Okotsu, but he's grabbed by Rika, a Shikigami. Rika says, what's going on here? Okotsu says, we're just playing. Hold him still for me. And he stabs Yuji in his heart with a broken katana and says, sorry, Itadori. This kills Yuji. The scene switches to Choso versus Naoya. It looks like Choso is overwhelmed by Naoya's speed. Naoya kicks him in the gut. Choso realizes that he can't use convergence. I can't even control the blood outside of my body, but he refuses to go down. Naoya says, you're tough, seriously, who are you? He replies, I'm the oldest of 10 siblings, then activates a technique called flowing red scale. Stack. When using this technique, the vertical lines over Choso's eyes become longer, while the line over his nose becomes thinner. He is able to channel it into specific bodily functions, such as focusing it on his ocular muscles in order to read Naoya's movements. Naoya responds to his siblings' comments and says, that's no answer. I'm asking about your curse technique, then dashes around Choso. Choso's eyes can easily read Naoya's movements. Choso goes to attack, but Naoya counters his attack and stabs him in the gut. He says, "Too bad for you, but I always act on the assumption that you'll counter. Since you're a pain in the ass, I thought it's best to use this weapon. You've got blood manipulation, so stopping bleeding is your forte. But how long can you last against me while paying attention to that?" Naoya doesn't like walking around with a weapon. He thinks sorcerers who walk around with weapons are too dependent on them to win. He says the way my older brother showed them off is pathetic. Choso says, "So you hate your older brothers?" He says, "Yes, that's right. There's no point to big brothers who are inferior to their little brothers. They should self-delete themselves and die." Choso, being the loving big brother that he is, says, "Maybe it's because of them that you are who you are. Whether they're superior or inferior, older brothers are role models for their younger brothers. If the older brother takes the wrong path, the younger brothers can avoid it. And if I take the right path, my little brothers can follow behind. What if you're strong because your older brothers are weak? You ask why I'm tough. I'll tell you. It's because I didn't have someone to guide me, so I kept making mistakes. Nonetheless, I'll walk ahead of my little brothers. That's why I'm strong." Then he releases a huge amount of blood on the ground. The narrator says, "Death paintings have mixed blood from cursed spirits and humans. They have a special constitution capable of converting cursed energy into blood. As long as they have cursed energy, they won't die of blood loss." Choso sends the blood wave towards Naoya. Naoya notices how slow the blood is moving and believes Choso must be dying from the blood loss. As he's distracted, Choso dashes to the side of Naoya and prepares to use piercing blood and shoots a piercing blood attack towards Naoya. Naoya barely dodges it and says, "I can't let this blood touch me." As he goes to dodge the blood wave, his foot touches a little bit of it and he immediately feels his legs get heavy and wonders, is he controlling the blood stains on his hakama? Choso says, "You know what comes next. This is checkmate." Naoya says, "Are you sure?" and dashes straight for him. Naoya thinks to himself, why isn't he releasing his attack? The narrator says, "This move, a Choso original, born of Choso honing his own curse technique for 150 years. Then he uses it, supernova. After using convergence to create multiple small orbs from compressed blood, Choso has the orbs shoot out in every direction like a buckshot. This attack hits Naoya and downs him immediately. Choso says, "Sorry, but you didn't love your brothers, and I can't understand that." Then Okotsu shows up behind Choso, dragging Yuji's dead body. He quickly punches Choso in the back of his head. Okotsu walks up to Naoya, who is on his last breath, and says, "Looks like you're hurt." His body is fully rejecting the non-human blood that entered him from Choso's supernova technique. Okotsu tells him, "Shall I heal you? My reverse curse technique can heal people, but in return, go inform your superiors of Itadori's death." The scene changes to a shocked Yuji awakening. Okotsu says, "What a relief." He goes on to explain that Gojo came to him and asked him to watch over you, so he had to put on this act. Gojo told him he has a bad feeling. "If anything happens to me, I need you to take care of the current first year and second year students, Yuta. I'm especially concerned about the first year, Yuji Itadori. Just like you, he was up for secret execution. If you could keep an eye out, I'd appreciate it." Yuta goes on to explain, "Instead of having a different executioner, I decided this workaround was best. At the Jujutsu headquarters, I entered a binding vow to kill you, so I had to kill you. Sorry about that." Yuji asks, "Why am I still alive then?" Yuta says, "Because of my reverse curse technique. At the same time your heart stopped, I instantaneously healed you with reverse reverse curse technique. I thought it might work based on what I heard. Yuta knows that they might find out about Yuji's staged death soon, but for the time, they'll officially consider your death sentence complete. Yuji asks, why are you doing all this? Yuta goes on to explain, because you're important to people who are important to me. The power you bear isn't your own. You aren't to blame. A sad Yuji says, you don't understand. This isn't about whether it's my fault. Then from behind, someone says Itadori, and it's Megumi. He tells Yuji, what are you doing? Let's head back to Jujutsu High. As long as no one directly sees your face, it should be no problem for you to go back. Let's rejoin the student. Yuji stops him and screams, don't act like everything is normal. Don't act like nothing happened. I killed people. Because of me, lots of people died. Megumi says, it's our fault. Don't be selfish and give up all alone. We aren't heroes fighting for justice. We're Jujutsu sorcerers. No one can ever truly judge us, so we must continually prove we're worth our existence, and we don't have the luxury of thinking about ourselves. We've got to save people. Megumi says, so start by saving me, Itadori. Noritoshi Kamo has made plans for those involved with Jujutsu to face off in a culling game. So I'm begging you, Itadori, I need your strength. And that's how the arc ends. And that's how the next arc begins, the culling game. This arc was short, but I really enjoyed it. I think Choso vs Naoya was an amazing fight, and I cannot wait for it to be animated. Choso is one of my favorite side characters. I really love his blood manipulation curse technique. I would give this arc a 10 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments what you would rate it. My favorite fight so far in Jujutsu Kaisen is Yuji and Todo versus Mahito. I made a video covering that fight. Click the video on screen now to watch it.